Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. The Dark Knight is known to keep a lot of trophies from various adventures over the years. Now he faces an extraterrestrial threat that wants to make a trophy out of him. Maybe now Bruce will know what the mechanical dinosaur or the giant penny feel like. Written by Dave Gibbons with art by Kubert's Andy and Adam, I'm taking issue with Batman vs. Predator. Let's see if this comic makes us want to turn the page or turn our heads. Going by a trade where the cover is a wraparound and has more of a painted aesthetic. I wouldn't say it looks bad, but I can't get over how awkward Batman's snarl is here. Maybe it's seeing the gum line that somehow makes baring his teeth less intimidating. We begin with the nail-biting ending of round 14 of the Gotham City Heavyweight Championship, which might be common in real life for all I know of the sport, or sports in general. We go to a salvage yard where its proprietor is trying to watch the match, but his dog, named Satan for some reason, won't stop howling. He drags the pooch and seems to throw him out the trailer to find whatever the agitation is, so he can watch the match in peace while drinking his carefully censored brand name beer. When the dog's noise comes to an abrupt end, Woodrow Pickett becomes suspicious enough that he runs out with his shotgun in concern, but tragically finds his pet's obscured remains. In perhaps morose fashion, the audio from the match plays out in parallel as the man is also killed by an invisible threat. Oddly enough, it was the actual devil. He didn't find it amusing that his name was being used for a dog. Turns out he's a cat person. The new champion, Marcus King, is briefly interviewed about his victory, remarked as the new king of Gotham, and makes a suggestive remark about spending time with his lady at the Plaza Hotel, for which there is a commercial including its location downtown, before the cloaked figure turns off the TV. Congratulations, champ. You know, I'm sure traveling the cosmos is quite the long haul, but I don't think that gives you the right to barge in on a celebrity's private time to get an autograph. Wait. At the arena, the mayor and a man named Raymond are congratulating Alex Yeager on Marcus's victory, and introductions are made when they spot Bruce Wayne and Commissioner Gordon. Jim wastes no time in heavily implying Yeager's a criminal, which the mayor chastises him for, apparently the latest of several warnings. Jimbo's got stuff to do, so he leaves, and Yeager seems to brush off the remarks. Outside, there's a run-in with Leo Broden, manager of the losing fighter, and apparent rival of Yeager, who straight up threatens to kill the guy and his boxer. Bruce meets up with Alfred, saying that instead of heading back to the manor, he's been invited to Yeager's victory party, and he just so happens to be Gotham's biggest gangster. The view from the top of the pile should be quite illuminating. Will you be bringing a bat-crested flag to plant, sir? Oh, I learned my lesson the first time. Turns out I'm the only one that plays King of the Mountain with punches and smoke bombs. At the Plaza Hotel, Marcus is in bed with his aforementioned lady, assuring they're alone save for Yeager's men guarding the elevator. Being a public figure means he should be more careful, but Lita doubts anyone would want to pick a fight with the new champ, even in Gotham. Mad Hatter, hypnotized as a henchman for his crimes. Sportsmaster, kind of self-explanatory. Two-Face, he might actually wait until he wins the title a second time, then kidnap him for a $2 million ransom. Joker would put him in a cage with a kangaroo hepped up on Joker toxin. Condiment King would probably try drowning him in all the ketchup in the arena. After she suggests he could be stronger than Batman, they hear a noise and become worried. After some blood drips down, so too does the Predator from the skylight. Though if he crashed through, I'm not sure how the blood, presumably from a previous kill, was dripping down. Lita runs for safety in the bathroom, where 1/3 of all accidents in the home occur, ironically. But this is a hotel, so maybe the rules are different. Marcus challenges the intruder, but is caught by a net and immediately gored and beheaded. Is it just me, or should this woman's expression be infinitely more horrified? What has she seen before that this is the biggest reaction the current situation warrants? We go to the party where Raymond is rationalizing to Bruce how the eye-patched Yeager had it rough, having to claw his way up from nothing, until Alfred mentions a prior commitment, as we see a certain signal in the sky. He later changes into his suit while a car is parked underneath a bridge, away from prying eyes. Here we see Batman quickly getting into his work clothes in the car rather than drive all the way back to Wayne Manor. Granted, it has to largely be implied that no one else is around, and in modern comics, with the kind of surveillance and camera phones that are so prolific, it might seem less plausible. But what I like about this scene is that it's grounding Batman in such a way that I have not seen in comics for years. And not just because I haven't read a Batman comic since 2016. I also noticed that as our favorite butler is telling Bruce it's time to go, one of Yeager's men is whispering something to him, and that's probably the alleged mobster walking up the stairs. Nicely done parallels. At the crime scene, Bats arrives to startle an already rattled Lita and listen to what the detective on the scene has to say. She details the events as we saw them, as well as the deaths of the bodyguards, and that Marcus died in pain. In addition to his head, spinal column, and trophy belt, his hands are gone. Broden is a likely suspect, figuring that after 25 years of quarreling with the Jaeger, the fight finally broke any truce they may have had. Batman leaves to have a word with him, observed by the true killer skulking nearby. At Broden's gym, the owner is berating his fighter, as he considers Jaeger using an out-of-city boxer to take the title an act of war. Naturally, that's when Bats arrives to mock, theorize, and accuse the gangster of murder. Nice little trifecta there. Leo denies it and orders his men to get rid of the trespasser, which goes about as well as you'd expect. Bull, the guy that just took a beating in a match he lost, is amped to try it himself, but he's kept at bay for his own good by a much kinder trainer. "You're in no shape, Bull. Guy's a pro." Not to mention, he's less standard pugilism and more advanced MMA. Good spirit, though, kid. Wanting to take on a crime fighter that just dropped 3 guys effortlessly. Not exactly smart, but still, good spirit. Batman leaves, saying that whether Broden is the culprit inviting Jaeger's wrath, or it's someone else entirely, he'd best watch his back. The Predator follows Bats as he swings through the city, and briefly loses him, though his thermal imaging picks him up again as Bruce Wayne being driven in his car. The alien decloaks as it kills a nearby cat, presumably because its hissing may draw unwanted attention? But if that was the case, why is he decloaking? Anyway, Bruce is watching the news, including Leo Broden, pulling the classy move of saying his fighter should be declared Gotham's champ by default, and the mayor dismissing Jim Gordon's warning of increased gang activity. Alfred is questioning keeping the stuffed animal heads from Grandpa Wayne's hunting days, figuring they're not exactly a source of pride these days. Bruce agrees, saying to clear them out, but keep the gun, because I guess it was helpful in a previous case. The present one, however, is actually quite baffling. There are some clues, partial footprints, rust flakes, but nothing conclusive. With the signal in the sky again, it's into the cave, where the car and utility belt are all good to go, and Bats is off again. You know, it doesn't feel like a lot of time has passed. I bet it's annoying having to put the suit on and off multiple times in one night. No wonder he sometimes just wears it under his regular clothes, which in itself can probably be pretty confining. Batman returns to Broden's gym, the scene of another grisly attack. With Gordon being chewed out by the mayor, we again meet with the red-headed detective from earlier, who says they have a survivor, the blind trainer that was previously more encouraging and protective of Bull Bersaglio, or however that name's pronounced. He heard a lot of men begging for God's mercy, and something akin to a scythe used on corn stalks. But Bull took the longest, and just like his opponent before him, he's missing his head and hands. The old man adds that whatever killed those boxers approached him. "Walked like a man, but it wasn't. I was ready to die then. But the darndest thing, it spoke." And Tiffany Haddish's kids say the darndest things are getting frickin' dark, even for the Fox network. Open season were the words used by the creature before it left, and the old man says it actually sounded a lot like Batman. As the Dark Knight takes a sample from the scene, he asks if Broden is among the dead, but he was apparently out visiting his mom. Gordon arrives, insisting SWAT stand down despite the mayor's orders, as Bats sees 3 red dots on the old witness, and immediately recognizes he's in danger. I suppose you could argue he assumed it was some kind of sniper, but he probably didn't expect an energy beam attack. SWAT opens fire in the vicinity of where the shot originated, but of course they find they didn't hit anything but roof when the smoke clears. 3 red dots hit the bat emblem as the Dark Knight looks upward, Gordon wondering why he's out in the open when there could be returned fire. "I think I'm starting to understand the rules."
Predator, the home game. Also available, Predator Jr. Get to the toy store!
Later in the cave, he explains to Alfred that standing out in the open as he did was a calculated risk, since he could have been shot when the killer had previously been close enough to hear his voice. His killer has taken lives of bodyguards and boxers, but spared a young woman, indicating that it may be working on some kind of code of honor, if a savage one. I guess you can add savage to it and it can still be a code of honor, even when it involves casually offing the blind guy since he used to be a boxer. The news, covering the murders, include Broden publicly blaming Yeager for the killings, and in response, via Raymond Squire, Yeager offers to talk things out on neutral ground at Squire's center.
How is no one going to be suspicious about this? I mean, the newscasts are usually exposition, sometimes a little convenient, but here it's just odd that it would be announced that 2 guys are going to talk on neutral ground about the deaths of their employees in relation to a mass murderer, and one of them was previously charged, though acquitted, of crimes. People are going to get their conspiracy hats on. Not to mention that Yeager was announced as a new investor in Squire's business, so a building named after the latter probably isn't all that neutral. Though Broden has shown to be not all that bright in this story, so chances are, not only could it be a trap, he might jump right in.
Figuring the elusive stalker might be drawn to such a gathering of underworld figures, Batman intends to stake things out, while he has Alfred poke around junkyards based on magnetized rust he found at the gym. I guess so long as Pennyworth doesn't abruptly start talking out loud about his time in British secret intelligence, he'll be just fine. Bruce Wayne arrives to meet with Ray Squire a short time before the gangsters arrive, only so he can put a listening device under the table. He suits up in the basement as the talks begin. Yeager's known his rival long enough to know that King's death wasn't his style, and now that Alex is all legit, he wouldn't want a gang war. With Ray chiming in that the mayor prefers the status quo, it suggested the 2 gang leaders work together against this third party, who just so happens to crash the meeting. By the time Batman swings down, the room's already littered with dead goons, and the Predator skulking behind him. Fortunately, Broden brought his own boomstick, using it to blast the alien out the window, though it saves and cloaks itself while the media attention is drawn upward, with Gordon and the police making their way inside. After finding a trace of blood, Batman takes off in the Batmobile, conferring with Alfred where to head next. Pickett's salvage, which was suspicious for being locked, deserted, and most of all, lacking even a guard dog.
The other 2 junkyards he checked out were just crawling with people and their pets. It was like a dog park for those who don't mind getting tetanus.
Bats enters the grounds, makes his way to the trailer, and peers inside, with the former owner and his dog strung up, and the killer's garish trophies inside. And the TV is still on, and that's just wasting electricity right there. Much like earlier, the sitcom's dialogue has a grim symmetry as the Predator returns, removing his helmet and revealing his mug for the first time in the story. As Batman readies a breathing device, the alien detects him just as he throws a gas capsule and makes a break for it. He gets a nasty cut from an alien throwing blade, leaving a trail of blood for the hunter to follow, but does manage to distract it with some thrown refuse. All that's missing is a giant X on the ground where the Predator is standing, because that's when Batman turns off the giant magnet above that still had some junk stuck to it. He begins investigating the pile, but gets winged by a laser blast to the face and shoulder. The hunter seems to have him dead to rights after crawling from the wreckage, but he didn't account for the remote control to his car, which crashes through the gate, catching the brute off guard enough for Batman to trip him up. The car knocks him over while stopping for its owner, and in his escape, Batman takes the 2-ended blade staff to his torso. Ouch! He voice commands a route home, zipping past police responding to a call. Figuring he met up with the slasher, Gordon gives SWAT the okay to shoot anything that moves, though as the Ginger detective notes, there are a lot of places to hide.
Let me try something. Ollie ollie oxen free! It was worth a shot.
The morning news reports on the incident, even noting how dinged up the Batmobile apparently looked, the trophies collected by the Predator, and the police running tests on the strange net used by the killer. Not only did it apparently defy chemical analysis, it seems Alex Yeager was killed in the earlier attack. Kind of surprising, figured he'd stick around a while longer, or that it would have been more noticeable when it happened. Anyway, Gordon refuses to comment on Batman's condition, or if the monster could be from another planet.
I know this is the DC universe where several alien heroes call Earth their home, but it just feels like they could have worked up to the idea that the killer was from beyond the stars. I don't know, something like maybe someone mentions advanced weaponry from the black market or secret government experiment gone wrong before going with, "It's aliens!"
Commissioner receives more chewing out from the mayor, and considering the guy's eating spaghetti while he does so, I feel that it qualifies as a choking hazard, while Leo Broden is at his estate, worried about competition for Yeager's vacancy and the safety of his mother. However, Mama Broden is far from the oblivious old lady. She doesn't just know about her son's crooked life, she advises him to go to Raymond, whom he knows was not as heroic during the Predator attack as the media seems to believe, and make a deal that could gain Leo his dead rival's cut of the Squire Corporation, a seat on the board, thus making him legit, a respectable businessman. Ma, you are the neatest.
What is it with you? I just think they're neat.
Huh. It's kind of a peculiar compliment. Not just because they've been previously talking about crime stuff. I'm not alone in this, am I? It is kind of weird, right?
And on the very next page, Squire is getting this proposal over the phone. Not particularly happy, of course, but sly enough that he says he'll need to think about it while he's unavoidably out of town for a few days. He hangs up and confirms with his assistant Marcia that his ski lodge is ready to house him in secret until the killer is caught, the media being fed a plausible story for the duration. Only she will know his location, and any communications will be encrypted. And someone really doesn't want spoilers for the next MCU film. Ray gets on the elevator and basically asks to get a quote about getting one of Yeager's goons to kill Broden. Unfortunately, he never makes it to the bunny slope, because you-know-who pays a visit, and I guess Marcia is so shocked she just passes out. Later, the police have arrived, Marcia already babbling her statement, and the finally named Detective Kandowski notes to Gordon that none of the guards saw any intruder that would eventually skewer their boss, and leave the pieces he didn't want on the display model in his office, perhaps as some kind of message. Everything about the case is puzzling Jim, except that if it was a matter of gang-related violence, it's far outside Broden's wheelhouse. Unless he found a hitman in the Planet X phone book.
Somewhere in this area.
That's just ludicrous, Kandowski. Everyone knows that Planet X is the galactic supply site for Illudium Fosdex, the shaving cream atom. We've been warring with Mars over that place for years.
Oh, indubitably, sir.
On the subject of Batman's absence, Gordon does mention some worry, since he knows of all the things the Dark Knight may be, a coward isn't on the list. We cut to Sunday services, where a priest claims the mysterious killer is a demon on the hunt for its own kind to return to hell, and urges parishioners to cleanse their souls to avoid becoming its prey. That, and asking for donations to restore an old cathedral. In attendance is Leo Broden and his ironically pious mom, claiming she needed guidance from above.
I'm waiting for the word of the Lord. At least something besides confess your crimes, stop being a criminal, help the needy, get your son to change his evil ways. I swear it's like listening to a broken record with him.
As they leave, Mama suggests that her boy should be hunting the killer instead of hiding from him. He got the one shot in before, and with Batman missing, he could be a hero, the man who cleaned up Gotham. One interesting thing I noticed is the last panel of each of the last 7 pages have a blood trail on a car on the ground, all leading up to this moment. Bruce, laid up in a medical bed, practically in mummy cosplay, hooked up to monitors. He lost oodles of blood, had some deep cuts, burns, and a concussion.
The worst part of it all is he really needs to scratch his nose.
I thought it was a very clever visual maneuver, acting as a trail to Batman's present state while advancing other characters' roles in the story. The news reports on what they've dubbed the see-through slasher, how the bat signal hasn't turned up the city's protector, and the fear of citizens taking the law into their own hands growing. The Predator watches from within the aforementioned cathedral, how Jaeger's death has initiated a wave of gang violence, and even Leo Broden's challenge to the killer. We get a close-up of, I guess, the Pred's face. It is really difficult to tell what with the coloring and all, but it looks like it's a species equivalent of a black eye. I guess it's possible he got it when tons of metal dropped on him. But anyway, at Broden's home, one mook is telling another about how they got men from Gotham, Vegas, Manhattan, even some of Jaeger's crew, on top of landmines and razor wire, that should the killer go looking for them, he'll be in for quite a treat. It's when they think they see a mirage by the fence that they open fire, and things they get explodey.
If you're like me, you read Mirage and immediately thought of that heat-induced hallucination you see in, a few cartoons and so forth. But the technical definition can include the optical phenomena by which an object appears displaced from its true position due to spatial variations of the index of refraction of air. So I guess you could say it fits if they were looking at something the Predator was just walking in front of. Don't say I never touch anything.
But their ordnance doesn't do them any good, as the creature takes the first two out and proceeds to do the same with the men inside the house. Leo takes his mom into the strong room, which I guess is another term for panic room, assuring that his men will stop this thing. He has a gun ready while she holds her cross, as the noise outside suddenly stops. Leonard figures his guys won, until Predator Kool-Aid Man's his way inside. To her credit, Ma Broden tries defending her son, hitting the monster in futility, only to be knocked aside when he fires his energy cannon. From the looks of this impending strike and Ma's expression, it looks like both of them got impaled in one strike. Either that or she passed out or had a heart attack witnessing her son get killed. Later at GCPD, it's been a week straight of no bat sightings, so there's little point in keeping the signal going. There's one more name on a particular list Gordon has, and it leads him to call Wayne Manor. Did you say Batman, Commissioner?
Yeah, I figured it out after 5 minutes. Turns out it took an alien game hunter to get me to drop all pretense.
Actually, Jim was just hoping that someone as well-connected and influential as Wayne would know how to contact Batman, maybe confirm his condition. But Mr. Wayne's out of town for the foreseeable future, like a lot of rich folks since Squire's death. Alfred tells Bruce the call was nothing of concern, then sees him sitting up, working on something in his bed. With his eyes covered in bandages. Dude might be skilled, but maybe he's pushing things with the whole bat theme if he thinks he actually has sonar. Where did you hide the remote control for the TV?
You know I need my SpongeBob fix. Without it, I'm not my usual chipper, happy-go-lucky self.
Gordon is at City Hall for another meet with the mayor, but is swarmed with press, who he assures Batman has not let Gotham down before. Lieberman, however, is still disappointed in Jim's procedures, and this being an election year, he's not overly concerned about the cost of catching the killer. So he takes a powder while the SWAT captain shares some new ideas, specifically a huge show of force that would include the National Guard to weed out the murderer. They keep waiting for the mayor until they hear unusual noises from inside the bathroom. Plop, plop.
His doctor's been telling him to eat more fiber, but he just won't listen.
After forcing open the door, Jim discovers Mayor Lieberman, gored and hanging by his feet from a shower head.
Oh my goodness. He had a full shower in here? Man, that's ritzy.
Alfred goes looking for Bruce in the cave, and I really like how they did the echo here, finding him to have taken a tumble. I guess his trials against the alien affected his eyes, since he's wearing dark glasses. Alfred shuts off the TV just as the news mentions a coroner's ambulance arriving at City Hall, and takes his boss upstairs, having to remind him of the adage about those who fight and run away. Sometime later, perhaps a day or two, Gordon is on the news, with minutes left in a deadline set by the city council after the mayor's death. Jim pleads for Batman to help, make contact before time is up, as his abilities are the only saving grace the city has. The alternative is that SWAT and National Guard will comb Gotham street by street for the killer, potentially costing a lot of lives. Funny how this is being done seconds before the deadline. Doesn't give Bats a whole lot of time to call, even if he was watching. The clock ticks down to midnight with no word from the Caped Crusader, who the news claims has abandoned the city. A splash page shows the Predator on a gargoyle, posing and delighting in apparent victory.
And this is where we're going to leave it for right now. I'm working with scans of a collected edition of the story, as I don't own a physical copy, and they don't really distinguish where one issue ended and the next began. I tried to suss things out by checking each issue's page number online, but that didn't exactly work out. So tune in next time to see how Batman bounces back from this. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.